And from the entire Silicon Oasis team, I'd like to thank you for taking time away from your Clate sessions to be here today. Here you'll find one of the largest collection of founders, investors, and tech enthusiasts from around the great state of Arizona. And thanks to the valiant efforts of Kyle, Josue, and the entire Silicon Oasis community, Arizona has become one of the fastest growing tech communities in the country. Now, the future is being built right here, right now, by people in this room. Let's have some fun and welcome to the Silicon Oasis.
AZ is building something real. Founders, investors, and operators all in one room. Are you ready, Arizona? Introducing the Silicon Oasis Summit. It's not a tech conference. It's the people shaping Arizona's tech scene under the same roof, and backed by the leaders building Arizona. If you're serious about this ecosystem and want to see Arizona win, then you need to support. Be the change. Be in the room. The Silicon Oasis Summit.
Bronson, thank you so much. Bronson Hickson is one of the people, when we started off Silicon Oasis 2 years ago to unite and spotlight the Arizona tech community. He was one of the first Arizona tech ambassadors to sign up for our program. We're so thankful for you, and give a round of applause for Bronson for kicking that off.
Arizona, we started the Silicon Oasis to make sure a great tech startup in Arizona never went overlooked again. And we are excited to be here today with a brand new partnership to make sure that Arizona tech founders win together. And given the time that we're at right now, we're just gonna go ahead and get started because we know you've all been patiently waiting. We're stoked that you're all here. A round of applause to yourselves, please.
Let's go.
Thank you for being here. And the first thing we're gonna do is actually give a huge shout out to the sponsors making today possible. Awesome, I'll give them each a read, and then if you're in the room, you can go ahead and stand up. But the first one is Western Alliance Bank. Western Alliance Bank fuels Arizona's fastest growing companies with relationship-driven banking built for scale. Their support strengthens the financial backbone of our state's innovation economy. Taft Law empowers founders with legal expertise built for high-growth, high-velocity companies. Their partnership helps Arizona innovators build with confidence. The University of Arizona develops the next generation of builders, researchers, and industry leaders. Their commitment accelerates the talent powering Arizona's tech future. Positive Recovery Solutions. Positive Recovery Solutions expands access to life-saving mobile addiction treatment across communities. Let's go! Their work supports a healthier, more resilient community and Arizona workforce. Low Loft is where the Silicon Oasis calls its home right now. Shout out to Low Loft. They provide flexible, modern industrial workspace that helps makers, manufacturers, and startups scale faster. Their model unlocks new building opportunities for Arizona's emerging builders. A Link. Shout out to Link, the app era is over. People don't download the message. Conversation with AI is the future. Link is the infrastructure layer that allows businesses and AI agents to meet customers inside iMessage, delivering rich, native conversations without friction, without installs, and without the limitations of SMS. Wrapping up here, but not least important, of course, still shout out to Silicon Valley Bank and First Citizens Bank. Silicon Valley Bank backs founders, funds, and their innovation economies across the country. Their presence in Arizona helps fuel the momentum of our growing tech movement here. And then AZ.ai Authentic Intelligence. AZ.ai champions responsible, human-centered AI adoption across Arizona's industry. Their leadership helps ensure our state builds an innovation ecosystem rooted in trust and real-world impact. A round of applause, please, for all of our sponsors.
When we started Silicon Oasis 2 years ago, we've been really focused on having tech founder and operator-only events throughout our tenure. Last year alone, we hosted over 65 events. And then we have a tech media arm, and we have a lot of tech partnerships with other community partners here. But if any of you have been to a Silicon Oasis event, please raise your hand if you've been to a Silicon Oasis event. Let's go, awesome, so 50% new people, I love it. So if you notice on all Silicon Oasis events, they are free registration, but highly curated for tech founders, tech builders, tech investors, and tech organization members. And anybody else who tends to show up usually supports through sponsorship or through donation. So thank you so much to our sponsors, and we could not do this without you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and dive into the first panel. We are stoked. And before we actually do that, if you are in the middle row and you need to exit, please exit throughout the sides. The camera's right in the middle, so we want to keep the shots on the important people speaking today. But without any further ado and delay, please welcome the first panel for the Silicon Oasis Summit. First, we're going to have John Ragan, the CEO of InvisionAZ, whom the Silicon Oasis has merged and partnered with. My co-founder here, Kyle McDonald, the co-founder and CEO of Silicon Oasis. And then we also have Clate, the CEO of Phoenix Forward and formerly CEO of Keap, formerly known as InvisionAZ. Please give him a hand.
Let's go. All right. Check.
All good?
Good.
All right. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here, everyone. This is such a great day for Arizona's tech community and tech hub. Today would not be possible without the two gentlemen to my left. So please give another round of applause. Well, let's go ahead and kick it off, guys. Why are we here today?
Well, if you've been in this tech ecosystem for a while, you know that we've had a little challenge in the sense that we are all spread out across this vast geography that we call the Valley. And we also have a lot of different things going on across the various sectors. So we're spread out geographically and we're spread out by industry. And if you were to look at strong tech hubs across the country, you would see collectively maybe less than what we've got going on here, but they are much more condensed and compressed. And so what we see as a challenge in this geography, that we've got to bring things together and get everybody understanding all that's going on in tech so that we can lift this tech hub and turn it into a top tech hub. That problem of being dispersed geographically and spread out by industry has plagued us for a while, and we are frankly punching below our weight class as a tech hub, and we can do much better.
Yeah, absolutely. And please, for all of you, please hold up your magazines if you have them. Who's got them? Give them a raise, that's awesome. So Silicon Oasis is, we're Arizona's premier founder-led community. We're an organization, but also a movement, right? And we're very focused on consistent high-level tech events throughout the year, getting the community together, watching the magic happen. Secondly, our second mission is to highlight and spotlight everything happening in Arizona tech. So that medium right there, the monthly magazine that we have, is just one of the many media things that we do on top of our news network, podcast, socials, you name it. And if you notice, the cover says Silicon Oasis plus InvisionAZ. And that's why we're here today. That's why we have my man here, John. So we officially merged with them about 6 weeks ago. And I'll let John get a little more feedback on that.
First of all, tremendous job today organizing this. So thank you very much. And thank everybody here for attending. A lot of friendly faces, and we appreciate you spending your Friday afternoon. This will be the least entertaining of all the panels, so I just wanted to assure you of that. Just to give you a little context of sort of how we got here. InvisionAZ was started about 8 years ago. It was a handful of people, myself and a gentleman who you'll hear from later, named Jack Selby, who probably had too much free time on our hands at the time. But we recognized that there was there was an emerging talent base in the tech community here. It was just getting started, but we needed to give it more help. And so we formed InvisionAZ at the time. We formed it with a very formidable board, some of whom you'll hear from today. The idea was, what were those things we could move the needle on and have a real impact to help tech founders and the tech community in Arizona. And we started out by working on some important public policy things that we got some wins under our belt. But the real guts of when it really started to come together, and by the way, Clate was an original board member of InvisionAZ, and there's a few of them out here today. But the board about 5 or 6 years ago decided that at the time capital formation and capital resources were probably the biggest hindrance to helping folks emerge in Arizona. Not in Northern California, not in Texas, not in New York. So we got together and we bet on this community, meaning we bet on the business community, not real estate developers, because when we went and asked them, they couldn't figure out how they could attach a lien to something. So those who laughed know exactly what I'm talking about. But we bet on the Pinnacle Wests of the world and the SRPs and the Quests and a few others, and they bet on us, and we created what became originally the InvisionAZ fund, and is now known. Probably most of you know it as AZVC. And now there's a second fund underway, which I'm sure Jack will talk about in an hour or two. But that was the real breakthrough. It was the largest fund, Arizona fund at its time. It's spawned a number of different smaller funds, which have helped create more capital in the state and helped keep more talent and resources here. And that was kind of our first 1.0 round. We recognized that we needed to do more than that, and Clate unfortunately introduced me to Kyle, who I think I've semi-adopted now, and just enjoyed what he has created with Silicon Oasis and the grassroots effort and the enthusiasm and the energy, and we felt like now was a good time to bring the two organizations together. We're the older guys who get to bark orders and tell them what to do, and they actually go do things. So anyway, that's why we're here, and we're excited. We're excited for the future and anything we can do to help promote Arizona's tech community.
I just want to add something about the merger, because InvisionAZ was, I think the creation of AZVC is one of the most significant things that's happened in the tech community over the last 10 years or so. The portfolio of companies that they're backing, just the fact that if you are a founder in Arizona, there are Series A VC checks that you can go after. That was not the case a few years back. Yeah. And so, when you think about, well, why are we here? The capital ecosystem has gotten better. We've got more work to do, but it's gotten better. The diversity of tech startups across software and defense and med and biotech, clean tech, semi, there's so much more going on. And so that's part of why we're here. There's a lot that's happening, but in order for us to take this tech hub to a new level, we needed to come together, combine efforts, and not splinter and do a whole bunch of different things. So my perspective is we have had the challenge that we've had, one, because we're so spread out geographically and by industry, two, because we have a lot of disparate efforts that are going on that are not pulled together, creating the synergy that we need to build a tech hub. And three, maybe most importantly, because the founders haven't been leaning back in, helping to build the tech hub. If you go look at any great tech hub, what it looks like is big exits with founders who pour their resources and capital and energy and time back in, and a community that's lifting and building that tech ecosystem. That's what needs to happen, and that's why when Kyle was talking about what they were doing, and I was observing what was happening with their grassroots founder-led initiative, and then John at InvisionAZ was saying, hey, we're going to come back together and do some unfinished business here, which is to, now that we've raised the fund and we've done a few things from a policy standpoint, we want to start to really lift and unify the community. And I saw lots of other efforts happening. I was like, hold on, let's unify. Let's come together instead of having a bunch of disparate efforts. And so that's when I introduced them and basically pulled a little play out of Jamie Baxter's playbook, who introduced me at Phoenix Forward to the Startup AZ folks so we could combine our efforts. We did the same thing here with Silicon Oasis and with InvisionAZ so that we can unite the tech hub and create a founder-led movement to make this a great tech hub.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Yeah, round of applause for that. Unbelievable. So, as you guys can tell, I'd like to get the audience engaged. By raise of hands, how many of you have lived here for 20 plus years? Awesome. Huge amount. Give a round of applause for you. I love Arizona. That's why we're here. Guys, during the Great Recession, I was 10, 11 years old. I'm 29 today. And I remember during the Great Recession, almost every other weekend, I was spending weekends with my dad helping people move out of their homes. And a lot of you can remember that time, how painful that time was. And I was a young kid. I didn't fully understand it. I'd see my dad come home. He's an orthodontist here in town, and he had to, he'd have to downsize his staff, and that just tortured him, right? But the economy during the Great Recession was so focused on real estate, construction, and hospitality at that time, which of course the Great Recession impacted those industries the most. When we, 2 years ago, were looking at starting a grassroots founder-led community called Silicon Oasis, we kept saying the same phrase over and over again: the stars have aligned in Arizona. The stars have aligned to become a premier tech hub. And where's the ACA? Who's with the ACA? Raise your hands. Love it. Big shout out to the Arizona Commerce Authority and all the other economic development agencies of the state. Please give them a round of applause. Please, please, please give them a round of applause. There is the effort that those individuals in your local city and state economic development firms have changed this state, 100%. We are no longer that economy of 2008. We are a diversified, strong economy. We are becoming the agglomeration of the semiconductor industry, the most important technology in artificial intelligence, really in the world, right? And a huge credit is to them. And so when we started 2 years ago, we're like, you know what? Like, this economy is amazing. There's tons of businesses moving here. Our population growth is always top in the country per capita on a percentage basis. And there are amazing tech companies here. Amazing tech companies here, right? But when we started, we're like, oh man, like, where is the tech community? Where is it? And it's not that it didn't exist. There were lots of things going on, amazing organizations. Many of the people running those organizations are here today, right? But it's like, how can we bring that together in a founder-led effort? And how can we do it together as a movement to make Arizona the Silicon Oasis? So that's why we got started. We ran for 2 years. There's a sponsor, Topo Advisors. They're not, yeah, Topo. So Topo Advisors, guys, is a company out of Indianapolis. They do fractional CFO work. They were our only sponsor for like 20 months. And I'm not trying to like cash shade on anybody for not sponsoring us, but like, they didn't even know us. We didn't even meet them. And that our man over there who runs Topo Advisors, he was like, I love what you're doing. I love what you're building in Arizona. We're going to give you $900 a month. And he did that for almost 2 years straight. And that was what floated us to keep hosting tech events, to keep hosting things. There are people here today, like Danny Perkinson right there, smiling at me. You know, I came to him, 3 months ago, like, hey, dude, I love what I'm doing. And it's, I actually get emotional about it because, like, I love Arizona. I love putting in this work for Arizona. And it's not just about a tech hub. It's about community and, like, the relationships I built. And I went to him. I'm like, hey, dude, I need to raise, like, 10 to 12K in the next week. And he's like, you know what? I'll write you the check right now. And I was like, my man. So he runs Arizona AI, one of our sponsors. So we're so excited to continue this, because what this merger does is it brings the grassroots community together with the people who have been there, done that, the institutional level people of the state who are founders, who are investors, who are leaders in this community, and it's just going to help this movement scale. And all of you can be a part of it.
Yeah, well, I want to just say something real quick about Arizona and why we're so passionate about this. But before I do that, the key thing that's happening here is you've got InvisionAZ with a board and the funding mechanism and the leadership to drive a founder-led movement where founders, from the very beginning, that very first meeting that we had, it was about how do we support the founders. And so you've got the board and the funding mechanism and this founder-led orientation with a grassroots organization that has founders mobilized and a unifying identity that Silicon Oasis brings to the table. So it's that combination that is making this possible, and I'm really excited about it. The why for me is, like, why does this matter so much? Well, number one, innovation is so fun and engaging and infectious to be around. When you're around innovation, the way that we change lives through innovation, whether we're talking about biotech or we're talking about software, or we're talking about defense, the life-changing impact of innovation is something that we should be embracing like crazy. It's because it's just so much fun and so important. The purpose of it is so meaningful. Number two is what Kyle just shared, the fact that we want to diversify our economy. I cannot tell you how many committees and groups that I have been a part of, and by the way, they are all doing important work. But what happens when we don't have the founders coming and being a part of that is we're missing the builders and that builder energy that is in the room when you go to a Silicon Oasis event, because that's what is actually the innovation, the life-changing, impactful work. So the founders have got to bring that. And when we bring that to all of the supporting ecosystem that exists, we have the opportunity to create an amazing tech hub. So yes, the diversification, yes, the life-changing impact of innovation. And the last part of it is all the pieces are there. They're all there. We just got to pull it together, and the founders have got to say, we are going to make this an amazing tech hub because we have pride of Arizona. We want to change the economy. We want to change people's lives here through innovation.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Clate. Thank you for that. And real quick, guys, so 6 weeks ago, we had our PR announcement, and then about a week or two after that was AZ Tech Week, which is a huge success. How many of you, raise your hands, showed up to AZ Tech Week? Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Amazing. Great job.
The people who planned that are sitting in this room today, and we
shout out Katie, shout out Melissa, shout out Sandra. The ACA did an amazing job on that. Well done.
And so with the merger, we wanted to keep riding the hype wave, right? And we know a lot of people take off for the summer, so we're like, you know what? We're going to do the summit, and we're going to do it in 5 weeks. So thank you so much for showing up today.
John and I said you're freaking crazy.
We appreciate you guys. So the merger has happened. We have an amazing board. We're going to continue to add people to that board and to other parts of the organization itself to be inclusive. But let's transition a little real quickly to what are the mission, vision, and goals of Silicon Oasis going to be going forward?
I think, first of all, you spend 5 minutes with these guys and you want to run out and be an ambassador after it. I think it starts with what you both have already said. Founders, it's founders, helping founders. That's the foundation. And I think there's a number of different themes that I think we've talked about. The love for Arizona, the belief in the people and the talent in this state. You come here, you fall in love with the state, and you never want to leave. And I think while we've all probably, how many people have come from a different place?
74% of the adults in the state have come from a different place.
Yeah, but once you get here, you don't want to leave, and you want to make it the best place possible. And I found that in dealing with everybody, in this community. But I think it starts with founders helping founders.
Love it. Founders are at the base for sure. I want us to kind of think about the vision of what's possible here. We've spent some time working with a group of people across Silicon Oasis, board members, ambassadors, and we said, okay, this merger's come together. Now, what are we going to go do? And what I want you to hear is this line. You're going to hear it a bunch of times today, and I want you to memorize it so you can go tell the world this is what we're doing. We are making Arizona a top 5 tech hub by 2035. That's what we're doing.
Let's go.
And by the way, that's called a BHAG. Jim Collins, a friend of mine, wrote Built to Last, Good to Great. He calls this a BHAG. It's a big, hairy, audacious goal. You're a little crazy for saying it. That's the idea. So it's okay that there's a healthy amount of skepticism. It's okay that people would say, those guys, I don't know what they're drinking in the desert out there, but they're nuts. But this is not a desert, this is an oasis. And there's a reason why 74% of the adults have migrated to this oasis, because it's amazing what we have here. And it's incredible what's been built here in the middle of a desert. And it is absolutely possible for us to take all of the incredible things that are happening and pull them together and make this a top 5 tech hub across the country over the next decade. What that means, by the way, is that we've got to displace Seattle or Austin as a top 5. We're not going to catch Silicon Valley. We're not going to catch Boston, and we're not going to catch New York. But we can catch one of those other two, and we can hold off all the other contenders. That's our job. Top 5 tech hub in Arizona by 2035. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Man, I got goosebumps when he was saying that. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well, gentlemen, are there any last things that you would want the audience to know about this merger and about the mission of this entity going forward?
I think this is, I think you said it well. It's right time, right place. Yeah. I think it's a marriage of founder-led grassroots with a lot of old tooth wisdom. But that's a really good combination, and a love for the state. And I think there's a lot of really, really promising things ahead, and I'm excited to be part of it.
I'll just add, with that vision that we have, that BHAG to make Arizona a top 5 tech hub by 2035, the purpose behind all of that for us is to help AZ tech companies win together. That's our purpose. Help AZ tech companies win together so that we can create a stronger economy and make that top 5 tech hub. So what that means is, as you're building your tech company, know that is building this tech hub. In fact, Aaron Matos, who you're going to get to meet here in just a second, he and Greg Scoresby and I were talking a few days ago, and we were saying the most important thing builders can do to make this a great tech hub is build their company into a great success. That's the most important thing. So builders building tech companies is the crucial thing that we want to do. And then secondly, we want to have those successful founders who have built something pour time and energy back in. Pour their wisdom, their capital, their know-how, their connections. That's really, really important. And there's a bunch of people in this room who are doing that. I'm super grateful for that, because that generosity is foundational to what we're doing here.
And Clate, I'd add to that, we've talked about it. When that happens, there's a cascading effect that lasts for years, years and years. And again, you'll probably hear some of this in the next couple hours. But I've been fortunate enough to know a number of the PayPal, I call them the PayPal Mafia, because they are, in a good way. But what their legacy spawned, not just from the original PayPal venture, but what spawned after that, continues to live. And I have a feeling that you're going to see a number of these things happen. You're already seeing it with Aaron and Paradox and others. You're seeing a legacy that just cascades on, and if we can build an ecosystem that promotes that, we'll have a big smile on our face.
When we think about becoming a top 5 tech hub, we want to look at billion-dollar exits. We want to look at spin-offs, this cascade effect of companies that are being spawned from those successful companies. And then we want to look at companies that are relocating and co-locating, recognizing that this oasis is a great place to come, and pulling, drawing that migration. So that cascade effect that John talks about, it's so fun to see. Like I see a bunch of software companies in our ecosystem today that spawned from the Infusionsoft world. And I got a bunch of my friends here from Infusionsoft that we see that. When you look at Basada that came out of that, and you look at, when I'm trying to remember Jacob's company's name, but when you see that, what was that? Phobe, yes. And you see these companies that spawn from successful companies, and that is so exciting. That's this cascade effect that John talks about. So, when I just look at the software slice of this tech hub, and it's just one piece of it, there are about 700 software companies in the Phoenix metro area. And at Phoenix Forward, we're working to organize those, and we have about 60 of them that are in this founder-led coaching community called Phoenix Forward. But that's just a little piece of it. There's so much more going on. And my hope for you by the end of the day is that you're like, wow, I do see there's so much more happening here than I realized. Because I'm telling you, and Sandra, who will moderate panel 3, she has a vantage point at the ACA unlike anybody else. She sees all these things that are happening, and I hope that you'll come away from today realizing, wow, there is a lot happening in tech. It's just spread out all across this big valley and the state, and it's our job as people that care about this tech hub to pull all that energy together, pull all those hot coals together, and fan the flames like crazy.
I love it.
Maybe one last thing. Again, thank you all for coming, spending your evening with us. None of this is going to happen in a meaningful way unless it's folks like you, your enthusiasm, your commitment to caring that this tech ecosystem become better. Without gatherings like this and without groups like this, none of this is going to take shape. So thank you very much for being here.
Guys, community matters. Community matters more than we realize, right? And Silicon Oasis, yes, it is an organization, but it is a movement. It's a movement that everyone who is in tech can be a part of, and even people outside of tech can be a part of, right? There's room for everyone. And community matters, and particularly community that's led by the founders and the people who are out there building and investing and trying to make Arizona a Silicon Oasis. Thank you so much. All right. Without further ado, we are going to jump right into our second panel today. So remember, we have 3 panels today. So we have panel 2, and then we're going to jump into our Silicon Oasis Awards, which is going to be fantastic. And then we'll go into an intermission and then have our final panel that you guys will want to stick around. It has an unbelievable lineup. But let's go ahead and jump in to panel 2, which is very, very focused on the founder side of the Arizona tech community. First off, I'd like to introduce my old professor from Brigham Young University and exited founder, Sean Bair. Please give a round of applause for Sean. Founder of SWORN.ai, former CEO of Nuri, and he also had a great exit at Bair Analytics. So good to see you, my man. Next, I'd like to introduce a man who is on the board of InvisionAZ and now Silicon Oasis, who I just met today. Please give a round of applause for Arizona's most recent unicorn founder and exit, Aaron Matos of Paradox. And then lastly, my partner, Josue Romero, co-founder of Silicon Oasis and chief of staff of Inked Greetings, who we believe will be Arizona's next unicorn. Please give him a round of applause.
All right, is everyone awake? Because I am running on 4 hours of sleep, but the adrenaline is still there. So if you are on your cell phone, I'm actually gonna ask you to please put it away. Obviously, I can't force you to do anything. But I wanna ask you to do that because for the past couple of years, this movement started not because we thought it was fun to do so. Ask my wife and kids, who sometimes I'm at meetings in the evenings or on Saturdays and not spending time with them, but because founders needed a place to unite together in tech. And they are so excited because for the longest time, they've been wanting to hear from been there, done that folk in technology in Arizona. And I am so stoked to have two of them with me here today. So for each of you, could you please introduce yourselves and give a little background on yourselves?
Sure, I'm Bair. I started a company here in the 90s. It was called Bair Analytics, and we sold predictive analytics to government and commercial and then eventually defense. Exited that company to a company called LexisNexis in 2015. Started another company here in Arizona called Nuri, exited that last year. Was the CEO of a company called GameSafe, where we helped protect kids in Fortnite and Minecraft and Roblox. I was a CEO for that for a little bit. And now I'm currently a CEO of a company called SWORN.ai, and we're taking biometrics and agency workforce data from police and from fire and from first responders and helping them to live happier, healthier, and less stress-free lives.
Hello, I'm Aaron Matos. I'm the, I guess I'm here because of Paradox. And for those of you who have been in the Valley for, how many people raise their hand that they've been here for more than 20 years? So for the, what do we call ourselves? Experienced people in the room. I also started a company back in 2000 called Jobbing.com, which was quite the thing until it wasn't. But we grew that company and then pivoted into software. We did an R&D project and kind of discovered conversational AI around 2016. So kind of the first wave of conversation, and built Paradox as a conversational recruiting assistant, sold it to large global enterprises like FedEx and McDonald's and Unilever, Disney, et cetera, and ended up selling that company. We had about 700 employees based here in Scottsdale, super proud of that, sold it to Workday in the fall.
Let's go. Round of applause, guys. Come on. Okay, so by a raise of hands, who here is either a tech founder or works at a tech company or is thinking about starting a tech company? Please. Awesome. There is no better room you can be in this state today than here listening from these two folks who have been there, done that, seen all of the troubles that go along with building a tech company. I always say that sometimes in Arizona, for people who are first getting involved in tech, they enjoy a lot of the third or fourth wave benefits of tech, which means that there's a company that started in San Francisco or New York, and by the time the remote jobs get to Arizona, we think about the remote work and the flexibility and is that how easy going it is, guys, to build a startup? I am sure it's not. So I would love to know from both of you, what are two things that absolutely beat you to the ground that you did not expect while building a company, tech company?
Me first. Beat me to the ground. It was a 26-year journey. So first of all, expect that it's not going to be an overnight success, because it takes 26 years to become an overnight success. I mean, I don't know. Beat me to the ground is a hard one. I actually think to be an entrepreneur, you need to love it. I think there's too many people who go into entrepreneurs and they want to wear the badge and go to the events and happy hours and be like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. You have to love it. You have to love solving problems. You have to love building things. You have to love the fact that you're taking, hopefully calculated risk. But the one thing that's probably the key is you're going to have ups and downs. This is not a straight climb.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, to echo that. Also, just moving from entrepreneur founder to somebody who now has to work in the business and with the accountants and HR and all the sort of management aspects of a business, taking you away from probably what you originally started the company for. That's the thing that was difficult for me, and I started getting into this sort of quagmire of, do I hire a CEO at this point so I can get back to kind of doing what I thought I was best at and loving. But that'd be the thing that I think was something that sort of caught up with me.
Oh, nice. There we go. And then this next question that I'm going to ask you, I want everyone to think about it for themselves as well, because, paraphrased, it's literally just, what belief did you have in your industry that just no one else saw? and I'll preface it with the whole, one of the biggest reasons that the Silicon Oasis got a little more intense with its activity was that about 2.5 years ago, I saw this, I call him a kid because he's 1 year younger than I am, but his name's Andrew Young, and he hosts tech events out in New York City, and I went to a couple of his events when I was working for a venture capital fund that I worked for out there, and they were great. I thought it was cool, and I was like, why don't we just do that here? So we started doing that. It was fun. I did it alone. It's much better when you're with a team, by the way. Alone is terribly hard, in my opinion. Shout out to you guys if you did that alone, but it didn't get into the point until I found the company that I work at now, Inked Greetings. Are they here? Or can you guys raise your hands if you're here somewhere, wherever they are? Anyways, Andrew and Sammy of Inked Greetings pitched at an Invest You event in Arizona here, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're the next unicorn. And no one in Arizona thought so. And I kept going to different events and seeing them there, and I'm like, hey, I think you guys are great, and then no one thought so. And I felt crazy, so I called on a random Tuesday, quit my job in finance, and just joined the team by that same evening. Like, I had a contract to join. And I mean, I don't know how big of a fan my wife was of that, but I know that it was just something that I just could not get out of my head. And then because that happened, I said, no. If there's this company here, because that happened with another one too, that I made a personal investment in, I was like, there's gotta be others. There's gotta be other builders in Arizona that are just working so hard and no one's noticing them. So what incredible belief did you guys have in both your companies that just no one else was seeing at the time?
It might have been naivete, but I had thought that predictive analytics was going to be a lucrative market and something that would be, and I should preface by saying predictive analytics in government was going to be a lucrative market for me and one that would be easy to just enter into given my background. And nobody really believed me and thought that that was what we should be doing. And that was in the 90s and the 2000s, and I think we were somewhat justified when all was said and done. You get companies like Palantir that can demonstrate that you actually can build big software companies that sell to government. So that was something that I just stuck with and thought, I'm going to grind this out.
Nice.
I love the naivete part. You kind of have to, you have to believe you can do crazy things to be an entrepreneur, first of all. Like, it just has to be part of your core. For me, I'd say all through my career, I've always believed that people are the most important part of any business, and it's kind of driven what I've done and how we've built companies. There was a pebble in the shoe moment where I kind of swam upstream in the industry, which was about 10 years ago. I was in one of our clients, and I walked out to a floor of like 150, 200 recruiters, and all I heard was them typing on a computer. And it was one of those moments that it just drove me nuts, that recruiting just became about the software. And to me, recruiting is a people game. And so when we built Paradox, we built it with this intention of how do you actually remove the friction of software and free people up to spend more time with people, not software. And that was a very big change at the time that, I still remember going to the first conference, and I remember being completely afraid of like, hey, oh my God, I'm launching this thing and no one's ever seen talking to a machine to go get a job. And that you kind of have to be afraid, not be afraid to be early.
And I love that you both shared this because there was some doubt going into it, even though you knew you had this belief. So for everyone listening here who wants to be a tech entrepreneur or who's in the journey right now, at what point did you guys go, oh my gosh, it's actually working? This is something that's gonna be a real business and make money. Because there's the point of no money and then the calm before the storm, then there's a storm and it's kind of empty, but then liftoff. Go ahead.
I would say when you start getting the renewals, so you've made sales, things are going well, but the rubber meets the road when somebody renews or re-ups their subscription. That's like, okay, this is now off to the races here. It's cumulative. It's not singular sales that we're making. That was a nice time.
Yeah, for me, it was early conversations with clients and taking an MVP out to clients and just seeing their faces when they see something magical. And then having the experience in the industry. There's two types of entrepreneurs. There's the kind on the outside of the industry who always thinks the industry is stupid and broken, and so they're going to come in and fix it. And then there's those people who are in an industry who actually say, hey, it's more than that, it's complicated. But when we built the first conversational piece, it was not shocking to me. It was early and we had lots of people doubting it, but it was pretty obvious to me. I was ready to push all the chips in pretty early.
I like that he said that because I think that's a big part of an entrepreneur or a founder, is somebody who's already in the industry. they've already begun to understand and feel the pain points and see where there's opportunities to make a change or to build something. And you were in HR for, I think, 8 years, and out of that came this knowledge of, I can build a better mousetrap. Same thing, I was in public safety doing analytics, and it was like, I could build a better mousetrap. So I think that's a big aspect of it too.
Okay, I love that you've both shared that once one thing is solved, the next thing must come next. Because every exited founder I know, they haven't just stopped. They're always cooking something at the very, cusp of what they just finished. They're like, oh, I already know what I'm doing next. I've got the capital I can support. And then they jump right into the next idea. With that said, what are you both working on now that's got you most excited about what you're building? And then how does that relate to Arizona, if at all?
My golf game has not improved, which to some of my friends is very shocking. They think that you should be done, and the reality is I was sitting in an office that I was already starting my new thing on the day that the press release for the Paradox Workday acquisition came out. And I think to be a good entrepreneur, you have to be slightly nuts. But I'm a builder at heart, and so to me, it's like, hey, this to me, if you're not excited as an entrepreneur about building in 2026, you're never gonna get it. The change that we have seen in tech, I've lived through the first wave of the internet, I lived through software, I lived through mobile. What we're seeing in AI is, and it sort of sounds trite, and everyone's gonna be like, hey, yes, AI. But if you're not living in 4 models every day and trying to figure out what's coming, this stuff is going to change the way, not just software is built, but every organization is built. I would be petrified if I was running a 15, 20,000 person company, because the disruption and complete, utter destroying of value that's gonna happen and over the next 10 years is gonna be insane. But it's also gonna mean there's tons of opportunity to create new stuff. And so to me, we're looking at how we talked, John talked about the PayPal mafia and Jack and some of those people. Everyone took their winnings from PayPal, if you will, and they went off and started new things. And hopefully we get to do that. We're taking a little bit different strategy. Some of my people that have helped build Paradox are, I'll call it pushing our coals together to create another fire together. So we'll see what that looks like in the future, but we're excited about the opportunity to build.
Oh, we are as well. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I don't start something to exit to make money to not have to work again. I think for me it was when I did exit to LexisNexis, it was a life-changing event. Thought we were going to retire back to Arizona, which we did, and I thought my golf game would pick up, but 2.5 weeks later, I was already bored out of my gourd and couldn't handle it, and I'm like, I got to do something here. And it's sort of this mentality of what is there to fix that's broken, and just going about life and seeing what things annoy me, which is a lot, and then try and come up with a solution to them to solve somebody's problem. For me, my thesis has always been serving and protecting people. So every opportunity that I have to do something that would further that makes me happy, and I find joy from that, whether I get paid for it or not. So I always try and stay within my lane. I've tried to go out of my lane once or twice, and it didn't work well for me.
Something I love that you both shared was that you seem to find genuine joy in building, and I absolutely love that. There is a quote given by, this was a streamer interviewing a very high-profile CEO. You definitely know who he is. But they asked him, hey, when they were fielding questions online, and they asked the CEO, hey, when I'm feeling discouraged as a builder, how do I recuperate that encouragement? How do I make myself feel better? And he was like, you should quit, because building a company, a big, extraordinary, phenomenal company, is something that should feel like chewing glass, and you should like that. So I don't know how popular that answer was. I'm just sharing that because that's what it was.
That sounds fun.
Give me more.
I know, right? But what I've loved about you guys is that you seem to enjoy it, and it seems to be a genuine pleasure having built that and just being worried about, or not even worried, just excited about what's next. And I take a lot of one-on-one meetings with people. I just love helping. Arizona, in terms of technology, grateful you guys are here. A lot of people sometimes gave advice who had never been there and done that, and therefore it confuses some of the folks along the way. So I like to tell folks when they're thinking about starting a company, I'm like, hey, it's gonna take pretty much your entire life for the next X amount of years. If you're looking to build a unicorn, 7 to 9, and that's just like if you get the best shot there. So just be prepared. I'm not advocating unhealthy work-life habits. I'm kind of advocating unhealthy work-life balance if you want to build a unicorn. So thank you for being excited about what you're building. That's great. Arizona, we like to say the stars have aligned so that amazing tech companies can be built, proof, and continue to be built here. What do you guys think have been the biggest catalysts for that?
Can I go to the first part of that?
Go ahead, yeah.
I mean, you have to absolutely love what you do, but if you are frustrated by, I have a entrepreneur that we just supported and we put some money into their company, and it's going nuts because there's a million things going on, and I'm like, these are the greatest problems to have. Like, the worst thing you could have is no customers going out of business. Like, you have to thrive on that kind of stuff. I had one of my leaders early on in the jobbing days. He started growing with me and started seeing more about the business. And he had this quote, came into me and he's like, Aaron, I'm losing my mind. I feel like we're 90 days from implosion. And I looked at him, I'm like, dude, we're always 90 days from implosion. And as an entrepreneur, it's you control the speed of your company. Like, you're the gate. And if you're not somewhat on the edge of being out of control, you're not growing fast enough. If it's cake, like, you should advocate unhealthy work-life balances. Like, you can't create something special just by being the average. Like, it just isn't gonna happen. Unless you're just maybe you can go buy a lottery ticket, but I wouldn't suggest that.
I like that you said that. It's building the plane while it's taking off. That's what it is. And that's your secret sauce, the fact that you have this ability to move quickly on things as a first-time founder or somebody who's starting out. You can move extremely quick and beat out people just by the sheer nature of you moving rapidly. The first part of the question, though, I think it's all coming together. It's coalescing. I think now you have people like Clate and others who've teamed up to try and give back to the community and do for them what maybe a mentor did do for others what maybe somebody did for them, a mentor. And I've had people like that who have sort of helped me out. I vividly still remember, again, mind you, this was the 90s, I got the best piece of advice I'd ever gotten from somebody, a piece of business advice. He said, you need to do recurring revenue. And our model was, exactly, I was new back then. Yeah, 90s. So you sold software, you handed them a floppy disk. That's how we sold software back then. But he's like, no, you need to get into recurring revenue. And I'm like, recurring revenue? And then, so obviously that was the best thing that could possibly happen. But what you need to be able to do is give back to others, sort of move that slippery rock that you might have slipped on or tripped over, and look back and say, hey, watch out for that. To others who are on the same path. So I think that's coming together. I'd like to see more engagement from the university level. I think that's what a lot of these big hubs have in common, is this a centroid of a university. So obviously up in Utah where I'm at, it's BYU, it's UVU, it's University of Utah. Those are a lot of the reasons for those incubations that come out. A lot of the students come out and actually start companies. And then you have, of course, here at ASU, where I graduated from, go Sun Devils, and ironic that I graduated as Sun Devil, but I'm teaching now up at an LDS church at BYU, so it's kind of an irony there, but again, go Sun Devils. But I'd like to see that happen. That wasn't there for me. I got my computer science degree from ASU, but it wasn't from an entrepreneurial standpoint. It was like, okay, you passed, C++, now let's move on to the next thing type of thing, yeah.
Nice. I'll actually have to give a big shout out to a lot of the student club builders, because to your point, we've also wanted to see a lot of the universities get a little more involved, and a lot of the students have stepped up. I mean, a couple of the groups here today, Dev Labs, Village Hacks, if you guys are here, you can stand up and hey, please give a hand to these young people building, guys. Like, one of the things that I'm asking you to give a hand for is that we at the Silicon Oasis, we like to co-host events, we like to do the media. I go on site with a camera and pretend I'm doing the news, and it works. It's silly. But guys, I kid you not, just in the last 2 weeks, a couple of the students we've talked to have been flown out by Entrepreneur First, got into Founders Inc. Like, it's happening. It's not something we're theorizing. We're finding these overlooked builders that are just putting up such phenomenal numbers at SF, NYC, other major hubs are like, we want your guy. If you don't want him, we'll take him happily. So shout out to the student builders building out there. Shout out to you guys. If you were to give one piece of advice for Arizona builders in its current state, what would that be if they're looking to aim to be a unicorn? Can be generic, can be specific.
I mean, to me, it kind of goes back to one of the things early on. Steven, one of my product partner on stuff is here, like remembers this. I always used to tell people we're like 2% of the way to our vision early on. And then I remember one of a founder came in like a year later, 2 years later, and he's like, you're still 2% the way to your vision? Like, you haven't accomplished anything. And they didn't understand that as an entrepreneur, you have to keep setting high standards, and you've got to keep having a bigger view of what you're going to accomplish. And I don't think we would have created $1 billion plus company if we would have just said, hey, we're going to go accomplish and build this little chatbot. You have to have a big vision. And so my recommendation to all entrepreneurs is you've just got to have a bigger perspective. There's no bad things that go out of dreaming big. Clate and I talk about this. Like, we have to have people who want to have big outcomes. And Arizona has historically been a little bit of a small ball town. And you mentioned this like why now thing. My why now to the entrepreneurs in town is there's no more excuses. No more excuses. I've heard for 20 frickin' years, we don't have any money in town. And my answer is always build a great company and money will find you. We don't have a community. We don't have talent. Today we have repeat founders. We have repeat executives. You can go, like when we started Paradox, we found Mark Chesley to be our head of technology, was at Infusionsoft prior. We took Ross Granger, who was at a WebPT company, at a battery company. We took Stephanie King, who was at DLA Piper. Like, there's talent who's actually gone through this. So to me, my advice is like, there's no more excuses, and just raise your expectations. Look higher in the sky.
Get started. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I would say the BHAG that Clate mentioned, 5. Why not 1? What's 5? I would never want to be 5. So no, you want to be number 1.
Let's be fifth.
Yeah. Everybody's leaving Silicon Valley. They're going somewhere. They're coming here. They're going to Austin. They're going to Utah. Go 1 or go home. So I would go, right? What do you? And the resources are here now.
It was only 2035 though, so let's give them some time.
Yeah, it's true.
Thank you.
That's right. You get to number 1 by then. Yeah, the resources are here. The infrastructure's here. The network is here. I would say form partnerships. The partnerships need to be here. Oftentimes, as an entrepreneur, the biggest piece of advice I would say, I'm not going to say the typical thing, which is you need a network. Network is everything. It is, but network takes you to partnerships. Partnerships takes you to who's going to acquire you. That's why you also want to start your networking very early as an entrepreneur. The best opportunities that I was ever given were given by somebody else. And when I finally went to exit, I exited to one of our partners, LexisNexis. So that's how that kind of goes.
Absolutely love that. Oh my gosh, if there's one of the highlights I'll give, it's 100% that. Make sure you're giving first before you ask. That's the type of community we're trying to build with Silicon Oasis. Don't just network and ask. Like, people are gonna know you as a person who just asks for things. So try to give. And if you don't have, like, I'm not saying give money, right? Like, don't give your child. But give of your time, give of the wisdom that you do know. Maybe a little service, maybe a little community. We have a couple of, shout out to our helpers here too, who just called us to volunteer today. Come on, let's go. We got Vi Bob, probably the biggest one who called us. So give, and the universe will give back if you're not a jerk, right? Is there any last comments you'd love to give to the audience before we shift on to the next thing?
I mean, you're here. That's half the battle, is showing up, honestly. So be here. Don't be a wallflower like I was. I was a computer science guy sitting in my basement, although there's no basements in Arizona, sitting in my room, coding, doing my thing. It's when I got out and I started, making sure that I was introduced to people or asking for an introduction or meeting people is when things started happening for me. So I would say use this as an opportunity. My goodness, you don't have to go beyond this room to have something amazing happening for you. If you truly are trying to be an entrepreneur, this is it. You really don't need to go beyond this room. The people in this room could help you achieve your goals and your dreams. So I would say just start talking to people. Make sure you have your elevator pitch down. That's the other big thing too. When they ask you, is everybody's gonna ask each other, so what do? You need to be able to say it in a cohesive and coherent way. So make sure you can do that. And that's a piece of advice I would give.
Thank you. Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no. No, fire away. You're welcome.
I am not the Mary Sunshine of the crowd.
Let's go.
Look, when you're building a company, to the founders, this is one of the, I appreciate that you asked for the founders because I'm speaking to the founders. I'm not speaking to everyone else who wants to sell stuff or the supporters. So the founders, you've got a bunch of things you need to do when you're building a company, but you got to build great product, you got to build your customer, your client base, you got to build your team, and you got to build all these foundations at scale. I think the one thing I see with founders early is they don't understand it's their job to build a team to build a company. And that doesn't mean hiring people. It means going out and convincing people who are better at their job than you are to join you when your company's not ready for it yet. And that part of, you gotta build the team to build the company. That's what lets you scale. And a lot of founders I see continue to stay a little small. They wanna control everything. You gotta get good at that side of the business. And if you do, you can kind of get out of the way. The teams will help you scale.
Let's go. Everyone, round of applause, please, for Aaron and Sean.
Well done.
Thanks so much, gentlemen. And then I'm going to welcome back onto the stage my co-founder, Kyle McDonald, and we're going to shift into our next segment, which are the Silicon Oasis Awards. Yeah. How's everyone doing tonight so far? Good? Yeah.
Good. How about that panel, huh? Let's go. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here, guys. So we're gonna present and roll out the program, the Silicon Oasis Awards, real quick, and then we're gonna jump into a 10-minute intermission for people who want to use the restroom, get drinks, etc. before our final panel. So real quick, the Silicon Oasis Awards is gonna be an annual tech awards conference that we have that will be nominated and awarded by tech founders and tech investors who are actively building here in Arizona. And so, if you could all stand up, please. If you're a Silicon Oasis ambassador, please stand up. Let's see where you are. All right, we got a couple here. I love it. Give them a round of applause, please. So as you can imagine, there's so many verticals of tech. There's so many cool things that happen in this industry. So there's going to be quite a few awards. I reckon 10 to 20. But it's going to be super fun. One of the awards that we will give out will be for the Silicon Oasis Ambassador of the Year. And so we were founded in late fall of 2024. Cue that next slide, please. So just so all of you are aware, Silicon Oasis ambassadors are all tech founders here in Arizona who are spending 60 to 80 hours a week plus actively building their companies. And what they do at Silicon Oasis is they actually sign a commitment contract with us on an annual basis to do these three things. And really what it boils down to is show up to events, show up for Arizona, show up for community, and work the room. You know, I like to say the phrase, you know, we like to get people in the room and watch the magic happen, right? Secondly, if you have a story about your company or about another founder or about something else happening in the Arizona ecosystem at the grassroots level, send us stories. Send us stories that we can promote throughout our media, all of our media channels, so that we can spotlight Arizona. I cannot tell you how many people from New York City, from the Bay Area, from Los Angeles, from Salt Lake City, from Denver have been DMing Josue and myself and our ambassadors about like, hey, what the heck is happening in Arizona? What is this Silicon Oasis? Like, what is going on here, right? And a lot of that has to do with our media. Thirdly, if the ambassadors want to host an initiative that they feel like is good for the ecosystem. Like I said, we hosted over 65 events last year. A good majority of those we co-hosted and we supported through marketing, sponsorship, and logistics. And so if they want to launch something, we'll support them, right? And so today, we are going to award the 2024 and 2025 Ambassador of the Year, and then of course the 2026 will be later this year. Please give a round of applause for someone who bought in at the very beginning, who is one of my favorite individuals, and I guarantee you, you will see him at every single event. Even if there's like 10 events the same night, he'll be at every single one. So our 2024 Silicon Oasis Ambassador of the Year is our man, Jordan Bourget. Give a round of applause, please.
Jordan, come up. And Jordan, we would love a 30 to 60 second speech about what you think of Arizona, what it's been like building here, and a little bit about CryoX.
If you would have asked me 2 years what I thought about the Arizona tech ecosystem, I would have said it's so over. But I'm here today to tell you we are so back. Guys, we are so back. The rising tide is in fact raising all the boats, and it's going to continue to do that. The one thing Arizona does better than any other tech ecosystem is we are hyper collaborative. We are really raising the boats here. So shout out to all of you. I have so many friends in this audience, and I'm so happy to see a lot of you, not just people in the ecosystem, friends. So thank you to all of you. And CryoX, we make active cooling paint. If you want to learn more about it, we are on a booth at the end over there. But thank you to everyone in the stream and Kyle and Josue. Thank you.
Love it, love it. Let's present your award here. And then go ahead and turn to the right here. Let's get a quick pic. Love it. This way. Come in here. Brenda. There you go. Love it. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right. And without further ado, our 2025 Ambassador of the Year, someone who, I don't even know how old he is. I think he's 17, but he says he's 20. I don't believe him at all. He is one of my favorite people in Arizona. He has done so much for this tech ecosystem in such a short amount of time. We actually co-hosted the first ever Arizona Hacker House with him last summer. It was a 6-week Hacker House where all these builders got together to do what builders do. And actually quite a few companies out of that Hacker House ended up getting venture funding, right? And that's one of the few things that this ambassador has done, but he's a great person. He loves Arizona. He runs what's called Dev Labs, which is a student-run organization. There we go. Which is a student-run organization at ASU all about building. Please give a round of applause for Danush Vardhan. All right. Cool. He also texted me this morning, dude, I broke my arm. I was like, what? I was like, you better come. You better come. Awesome. Well, Danush, appreciate you, man. Yeah, feel free to give it.
Awesome. Hey guys, thank you for having me here. This is super great. I still remember how we met Josue, and this was during 1 year back. We met at this taco shop trying to host, Arizona's first hacker house. We were like, dude, we should stop sucking up to San Francisco. Bring up that startup energy here in Arizona, and man, we did it, right?
Let's go. No, yeah. Danush texted me one night and he's like, hey, let's do this. And I posted at LinkedIn on 11 p.m. that same night. And then by 12 p.m. the next day, we already had a sponsor lined up to get the whole thing rolling. So that's how fast tech moves, just as a PT dubs.
Yeah, it's great, and I've been loving doing this. Well, a little bit about Dev Labs. We are a tech community here. That's how we started. The way we started was we were nothing but just a college club, but one thing led to another, and we started being at the forefront of changing that tech ecosystem out here, which I'm super happy to say. And I'm also super happy to see a lot of our folks from our community here. Nisarg, Natalie, a few startups from our cohort as well as here, so that's super awesome. That's it from me. Thank you guys. Yep.
Give it up for Danush, everyone. Let's go.
Appreciate it. All right, thank you so much, guys. We're gonna go ahead and break off into a 10-minute intermission. Please come back in 10 minutes or just stay seated.
Everyone, how are we doing tonight? That was it. How are we doing tonight? Come on, let's go. Thank you, thank you. All right, cool. We're gonna get right into it because I know we are just so excited to hear what's next and for what's next. We're actually going to watch a video from the Arizona Commerce Authority, which I personally find super inspiring myself. It is called The State of Possible. I want you all to think about the things that you want to do, dreams you've had. What's keeping you from making that leap? Think of those things as you're watching this video, because we really want you to understand what we're creating with this movement. Go ahead.
The world loves to tell you why you can't do something. It's too hard, too expensive, too ambitious. Not in our state. Welcome to Arizona, the state of possible. Here, we meet big ideas with big support, big talent pools, and big opportunities for growth. We're home to anyone with a dream and the drive to make it happen. Arizona, the state of possible.
All right, applause, please. And now, Arizona, Silicon Oasis, we are going to be moving to our final panel of the evening, and it's going to be represented by a couple of the key industry pillars that make up the Silicon Oasis, including defense and dual use, software, bio and med tech, semiconductors, and clean tech. So please welcome to the stage, and with a round of applause, Jack Selby, Sandra Watson, Drew Trajanowski, Scarlett Spring, and Clate Mask. And then this panel will be moderated by Sandra Watson, and we're going to let them have the show. I'm really, really excited for this panel, guys. So, ears perked up, please.
Thank you so much, and it is so exciting to be here. What a great crowd. And I know listening to the earlier panel discussions, we were able to talk a little bit more about the purpose, the mission, the purpose, and the goals for this merger. And I think we're all very excited that this momentum that we're all experiencing here in Arizona is really because of all of you. And it's because of this all-star panel that we have here today. But this community has really come together, and I could not be more thrilled with this past couple of weeks that we were able to showcase why Arizona matters to the global economy. There is so much happening in our state, and it really is because of all of the great work that this community is doing together. And as you heard Clate speak earlier about, it really is about winning together. And so we really want to talk on this panel about how we can get to that goal of a top 5 tech hub in 10 years. But Clate, I think we should challenge ourselves a little bit more. And I think we should try to.
Boston?
Yeah, of course I do. And Seattle. And I think we should try to do it in 5 years. But we can debate that.
All right.
We can debate that. But a couple weeks ago, we had AZ Tech Week, the very first AZ Tech Week in our state. It was amazing, wasn't it? We had over 18,000 attendees attend over 400 events in 26 communities in our state, the largest inaugural tech week in the country. So you should all be very, very proud. While I am so excited, we had Melissa and Katie as our leaders at the ACA. All of you contributed to the success of that event, and we can't wait to do it again next year. And we'll get some dates out to everyone very, very soon. But also, just this week, we had the Forbes Under 30 here in our state, and they attracted over, yes, thank you, and you were one of our listers. But we had over 4,200 people registered for that event. The majority of them were from out of state, and they were from 30 different countries and all over the state. So again, really focused on that young talent, highlighting the opportunities in front of us, and they had such a good time. It was a 4-day event. We'll be hosting them again in 2027 and 2028, so I hope, again, you all get involved in that. It's really about building the momentum. So we're gonna get started because we have this all-star panel, and I'm gonna start with Jack, because Jack is, been working so hard in this community to really build the kind of capital environment that we need to be a successful tech hub. And you've worked across so many different capital markets, and you have seen firsthand where investment is flowing and why it is flowing there. And from a capital perspective, what signals are you seeing that Arizona is ready to compete for that top tier level?
Well, thank you, Sandra. I think one of the best signals that we've had recently, our prior speaker, Aaron Matos from Paradox, it was the first multi-billion-dollar tech acquisition in the history of the state. So, yes. So that's amazing. And so one of the hopes that I would have, and Aaron's a great friend, is that hopefully we're gonna have a bunch of young Paradox employees, and maybe they'll work at Workday for the rest of their lives, maybe they won't. And they've made some good money from the Workday acquisition, and they wanna go out and be the next junior version of Aaron. And hopefully there are 20 or 50 or 100 of these young people that made 7 figures or more, and they've been inspired by Aaron's serial entrepreneur success, and they want to be essentially the younger version of him. And the reality is we just haven't had that many of these outcomes. They're really hard. And I've known Aaron forever, and building companies for a multi-billion-dollar acquisition, whether it's IPO, takeout, whatever it may be, you just have no idea how difficult it is. It doesn't happen overnight. But now that we have had this huge outcome like Paradox, I think it shows the rest of the country that we have truly world-class activity that's going on here in Arizona, and we just have to continue that momentum.
Yes, and I think there's a lot of exciting things happening in that area, especially with a number of the new funds coming into the community, and I think there'll be some announcements soon on those, so exciting times. So Drew, aerospace and defense, clearly a major sector here in Arizona. We've seen $3.3 billion in investment just in A&D over the last few years, continues to grow. And one of our more important sectors started, in the early 50s or earlier. But it's exciting to see the work that you're doing, because you're really starting to bring together sort of those emerging startups and really beginning to cultivate an environment here that they can be successful. What is happening in the A&D space that positions Arizona for that long term?
So I'd kind of started with a bigger perspective. So there was a recent announcement for the defense budget that came out, which is $1.5 trillion. Like, that's a number that should blow people's hair back. That's almost a 50% increase. And then there are a few things that sit within there that I think are of great interest, right? So I want to say autonomy grew by 24,000% in the budget. So it went from, give or take, $300 million to about $68 billion, which makes it bigger than the Marine Corps, makes it bigger than that, right? And so then what's interesting about that, and what I'm kind of seeing for our ecosystem that makes us unique, and I think we have a powerful story to tell as a narrative starts to unfold itself, right, is We're able to extract things from the ground, process things from the ground, put that into silicone, put that into component parts, put those component parts into systems with integrators, and then test those things out here and push those things out into production. So like it positions Arizona in one of the most unique places it's ever been in its history, to be at this intersection of not just, you know, like a town that had been previously a cheap place to expand, you have real estate speculation, and you have those kinds of growth, where now we're turning into this enormous tech hub. And so how do we make this transition from, you know, a supplier to defense production node? And we're watching this unfold real time. New missions are being stood up, new companies are coming in, scale companies are relocating, all of it's happening right now.
Yeah, it's exciting. And bioscience is also seeing some very significant investments in our state. $1.9 billion just from the Mayo Clinic. And there's several other exciting opportunities. And Scarlett, you have a unique position here because you sit sort of in this community where you're focused on the bioscience community. You've been a long supporter and you know, a founder in startups as well. How are you seeing the biotech community in our state and medtech community, and why are people underestimating it here?
I think that's a great question, and yes, when you think about the bioscience and the medtech and med device, it really kind of has its roots here in Phoenix. You think about translational science, you can go back to TGen. TGen was a concerted effort by this community, by the governor, to actually look at how can we translate science. That means getting it out of our universities and out of labs to where it makes a difference. And one of the first companies just last summer had an IPO. It spun out as Molecular Profiling Institute. It came out of TGen. That became Caris. Caris launched its IPO now in last fall for $500 million, so $500 million IPO. You know, there was another spin out that came that was in the precision medicine space. And those companies, they put together two different companies that came out of TGen and a David Mallory company. And that is what got Exact Sciences into this market. That acquisition happened around 220, 222. And now Abbott has bought Exact Sciences. So that's a significant player that has come to the market. And we're seeing it in various ways that are happening in this space. So this is an area where we have a real opportunity. You've got now both of our universities having their medical schools. ASU just broke ground in a unique MD, PhD program. How are we making techie doctors? Because what I'm really excited about is, Sandra, is this convergence, that regardless of whether you're in the medtech space, whether you're in the diagnostic space, you know, it is the AI and it is the semiconductor, it is the chips that it's all running on. So one of the things that we're really seeing is this tech convergence, and we're all in our verticals working really, really hard. We just celebrated FemTech last night, the launch of FemTech, and the fact that Arizona can be the hub for the FemTech movement that is really taking off. And that's happening, and I believe it's happening because of this convergence around tech. So I'm super excited about it. I could go on and talk about the initiatives that are coming out of ASU, a great program where they're embedding engineers with surgeons, and they came up with 4 different problems that they could create innovation around, and then whittled that down to 2. Those 2 will be graduating this year, and they are going to get funding. They filed their patents. So it's those companies that we really want to try to move through so that they can get out and make a difference in our lives and in healthcare and making it better.
No, that's great. And that convergence is perfect for our next panelist, Clate. You know, the software industry touches every industry, and healthcare, defense, advanced manufacturing. And it really is an opportunity sort of to bring all of these industries together. So how do you, from a software perspective, tie all of these things together and, you know, help create the ecosystem that we're all striving for?
Yeah, so during Tech Week, we did an event in partnership with Silicon Valley Bank. And we had a couple of VCs on the panel, and we had the head of market research from Silicon Valley Bank that was on the panel, as well as the partner at Silicon Valley Bank that is liaison with a bunch of their clients, which are VC funds. And it was really interesting because we started out talking software, and then he began talking about, the market research head in particular began talking about all the other things in terms of defense and chips and semi and all the things that are happening here. It became a very clear conversation about the fact that we're not doing these things in separate silos. And that's what's been happening for a long time. We do our software thing over here, and defense is doing their thing over there, and bio and med tech's doing their thing over there. And the reality is AI has changed that entirely. AI runs across all of this, and some of the smartest tech market research folks are seeing that and reflecting back to us what we've got going on here in Arizona that I think sometimes we don't realize. So I'm really pumped about the way that the stars are aligning, things are happening. Just in software, these 60 companies that are in Phoenix Forward in Q1 raised 7 of them raised capital at over 60 million. We had another one that raised 65 million. So in software alone in Q1, we were over 200 million, which is really great because that's a nice lift up from where we've been in years past. That capital beginning to flow has been happening because of work that's been going on for a long time. I mean, stuff that goes back to the angel investment tax credit days we worked on, stuff that goes back to InvisionAZ 8 years ago saying we need a fund, creating AZVC. So I just see a lot of different factors that are making it possible for all of the various tech pillars that we have to not be so siloed, to actually be working together so that we're all building and lifting this Arizona Tech Hub that we call Silicon Oasis.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And it's really tearing down those walls. It's bringing people together. It's collaborating. So maybe we'll ask all of you, where are the opportunities to collaborate? And maybe, Jack, we'll start back with you, and we'll just move on down.
So I think, Clate was really the driver of this event. And the idea, just for the audience's maybe edification, is that trying to get all of us as much as possible on the same page so that we can have kind of one driving force for the community, because we do have so much going on. And Sandra, you know this from your Commerce Authority perch. And so I think one of the challenges we've had maybe in the past is we've had, because we're a big sprawling 5th largest city in the United States, we have all these different pockets of activity throughout the Greater Valley, and it's fantastic. But what we don't have, unlike a Silicon Valley, is we don't have one kind of dense area where if this was a very large coffee shop in Palo Alto, everyone would be a tech entrepreneur, and we have essentially 10 of those throughout the Greater Valley. And that's just the reality. That's how the valley's laid out. So kind of the North Star with what we're trying to do here today, and thank you everyone for being here, is how can we more get on the same page in a coordinated way? And if we can do that successfully, then I think we'll be able to punch even more above our weight.
I have two, one very relevant to you guys, but one less, and I'll start with that one, which is it's a kind of a hobby horse. But the world that I live in, specifically as it relates to defense, is there's this weird invisible Mason-Dixon line at Marana, and I don't know what it is, but we have the tech ecosystem that's up here, a lot of the OEMs, a lot of manufacturing is happening up here, and then if you go south of that Mason-Dixon line, the entire defense footprint is down there. We do have Luke up here, but there's give or take about $17 billion of defense activity that's happening in southern Arizona. And how it relates is, well, to finish that thought, it would be fantastic if we were able to figure out how to collapse these two worlds together so we could equally punch above our collective weight class if we can merge both what's happening in Phoenix and what's happening in Tucson and bring those things together. But as it relates to my world, I am inherently always telling people about the dual use aspect of things, right? And so it just means that there's a defense application and a commercial application. And really you've seen this bow wave happen after sequestration happened, after the Berlin Wall fell. We lost a lot of like what the defense focus was, and we started offshore and we started doing all these things. And so what's happened now is defense isn't the prime driver of R&D and tech development. It's mostly commercial, and the Defense Department has pushed itself into a position where it's acquiring commercially available tech, which is great news for everybody in this room. And so like if you think about it like that, and then really there's a lexicon challenge that I think that we collectively have to the point of convergence, right? everyone's looking for the same things. It's autonomy, it's sensors, it's computing, it's materials and manufacturing. And it's like, and really it's just what's the use case? Is it for bio? Is it for space? Is it for defense applications specifically? Is it all of these things? And so I guess what I'm saying is I see this opportunity for us to kind of de-silo and work and pull all those parts and pieces together.
No, and I couldn't agree more, because that is, I could the sensor. I mean, we wear these watches, around just tracking our steps, or we wear an Oura ring about our sleep. That is, I mean, it's going to be unfathomable in the next 5 to 7 years, which the data that's going to be coming from that. And so whether it is that it's med tech or health tech, or it is true med device, which is an implantable, or whether it is a bioscience, which means there is a drug there. There are so many ways that AI and sensing technology is going to be so important to that. I'll say the second thing, which I think Jack is spot on, is we do need density, right? This is kind of what Clate was talking about, and I'll come back to the point that Sandra made. There's going to really be very two intensive density hubs that's around bioscience, med tech. One of those is happening downtown. That has been over a 20-year project that started with TGen, and then it became University of Arizona Medical School, and now we have over 24 startup companies in various stages and 30 entities in the NIH, which might be a surprise to you all, have been here since 1965. This is the furthest outpost of an NIH studying metabolic disease and kidney disorders. And they are just doing some amazing world-class work that is happening in downtown Phoenix. So a hub is happening downtown where we're actually integrating clinical and academia, where you've got innovators, where you've got investors, where you've got industry, where you've got government partners, and where you've got community. And that's happening downtown. The second one that's going to be happening is up at Mayo. You had Mayo Clinic make almost a $2 billion investment. Any other day, that would have snagged all the headlines, but it happened the very same weekend that TSMC announced their big, $160 billion investment, so it kind of got lost. But let's not lose that. Right. The Mayo Clinic is world-renowned. It is building where downtown there's about 34 acres of that bioscience hub. What will be happening there at Mayo is going to be 120 acres. So it's super exciting. It's a way for us to create some of that density, because innovation does need that. You do need that collaboration. You need to have that ability to interact with those innovators. And I will put a stake in the ground for why we're all here is we do need those founders. We do need to have people leaning back in. We have to have that energy, and we've got to have that hustle and be willing to grind, and I know we can do it.
Excellent. Clate?
I love what's been shared here, and I would add two things to the question of, well, how do we collaborate? I think about this a lot like I think about leading a company, and you've got your sales and marketing and product and finance and customer success, and they're all doing their things. And as a leadership team, you've got to get everybody aligned to the same goal. You've got to have a shared goal with shared purpose of why we're doing this, with, I say all the time, values-based, purpose-built, values-based, mission-driven companies win. Values-based, or purpose-built, values-based, mission-driven companies win. Same thing happens for any goals that we go share. So we've got to create a shared goal that's based in our values, that is totally driven by a mission that we're up to. And that's why we're sharing this vision that we have to make Arizona a top 5 tech hub. I agree, it's got to be more than just Phoenix. We got to bring in the Tucson part, Flagstaff. It's got to be a tech hub. We got to have this shared goal, just like a company's got to have a shared goal. And then it's got to be really grounded in a deep purpose. And we have purpose here. We have deep purpose. So we've got to ground it in that. So that's the first thing I would say is let's have a shared goal. Make Arizona a top 5 tech hub. Maybe we do it faster than we said. The second thing is then you've got to have people aware of what's going on in the other areas. When you're leading a company and you've got your product team that's at odds with your customer success team, what do? You get them working together, you get them talking, you get them understanding what the other one's dealing with. And when we come together at the Silicon Oasis Summit, it's about knowing what's happening in medtech and med and bio, what's happening in defense and dual use, what's happening in software, clean tech, in semi. We've got to be more understanding of that so that we can all recognize we're building something together. So I would say generally shared goals, and then second, we're aware of what we're all doing and we understand we're all building this together.
Yeah, you know, and I think that the saying of a rising tide lifts all boats. And we've been so fortunate here in Arizona because we do collaborate. We do work together. And that stat of 74% of the adult population comes from somewhere else. It is an incredibly welcoming state. And so we all do tend to want to help each other out. And over the last, I'd say 4 or 5 years, we've seen $214 billion of investment in the semiconductor industry. That is the largest, and TSMC's investment of $165 billion is the largest foreign direct investment in the history of this country. And it happened here in Arizona. We've talked about the $3.3 billion in the defense industry that has been invested just in the last few years. The 1.9, and I'd say is closer to $2 billion in the bioscience industry. Over $7 billion is invested in the battery manufacturing industry. $26 billion just in the last few years in the digital infrastructure industry. And about another $7 billion in clean tech. So we're seeing that kind of investment in Arizona, and it's an exciting time. We've got momentum. We are capturing sort of that global attention, which I think is really exciting. And so what does that actually look like now across all your industries, working together? We've got a ton of investment happening in our state. We've got great founders. We've got investors out there. Why don't you talk a little bit about how, you know, this looks like in practice so that people out there can start to kind of get to work on it?
I'll start with software and then hand off to Scarlett. So what we're doing in the software industry is we are creating a founder-led coaching community so that founders aren't out there on their own trying to figure this stuff out. This has been done before. There are people who have done what founders are trying to do. And so if that founder-led coaching community where we have 12 exited software founders who are pouring back in, that model is really, really powerful for software founders that are trying to figure out, well, what's next? How do I do this? So I think that's one thing. And what I would say is when the founders pour back in, whether it's whatever industry we're talking about, when the founders pour back in, you see that sector of that industry start to take off. So that's one thing we're doing. I think I'm really proud of the fact that, you know, there's 700 plus software companies here, and 60 or so of them are in this community that we've just started 6 months ago. We are just barely getting started on it. I'm having a blast leading that. And, you know, I want to see those software companies win, and I want to see that have an effect across the rest of the tech hub. And what we're going to do in software is know that we're going to build that pillar and make the tech hub stronger because of what we're doing in software. And if each one of us is doing that in our pillars, it's going to make the overall thing better because of the rising tide that lifts all boats.
Great. Well, in the med tech space, so we are beginning, and this is like one of those moments because we've talked about it being a moment, and it is a moment. And I think in the medical device and med tech space, people are really feeling that. And that is getting behind the incubator. We have a really, really great incubator that sits at the Gateway Maricopa Community College campus. So how do we get very much behind those companies and get them into an incubator? Then how do they come to the Arizona Innovation Challenge and work through the programs that we have? And then how do we get them to the Flynn Foundation and the program for entrepreneurs and keep refining those companies? And then how do we get them up to the Mayo ASU medtech accelerator that is going on, and then how do you get them back for something that we've created at the Phoenix Bioscience Core, which is how do we help companies that last mile get across? Because every one of these phases, whether it's from incubation to then growth to acceleration to scale, all of them have their own, you know this, you have your own set of problems, you have your own set of issues. And so we're working hand in hand with a group that got together called MDM2 to create validation points. Like, how do we get our clinical partners enrolled quickly and early so that we can help them validate? Is this going to work in the way that a physician thinks? How do we then get the payers in the room so that you understand how are you going to get paid? What's your reimbursement? How are you going to go to market? What is going to be that strategy? So we can either answer those questions very, very quickly, validate go, no goes. And those are probably the two things that I'm most excited about right now, is that we're creating a path for these companies so that the best can survive and get through even faster, and that we're creating these different steps of validation points so that we can really help them know either that's not going to work or it's got to be changed and you've got to pivot quickly. Because we've got to get the med device, the pharma, the med tech stuff through quicker.
Concur. Defense is weird, right? Like, it's confusing. There's no 1-800-DOD. There's no, like, it's like a black obelisk. Like, no one knows where the door is. Like, how do I get into this place? And so for us, like, that's really what we've done. Like, if we think about founders in the sense of you're looking for a couple of things, right? Like connections, capital. I don't know why I just blanked on the last C. But you can imagine, it's all of those things. That's not coaching, but we do that. And it's like organizationally, we can find access to capital, we can find connections, we can find all these things for the companies and help explain all those. And so then we've stood up our own accelerator, right? It's like we're helping the companies. And I'll plug, we have demo day coming up on May 7th, so I hope to see all of you guys there. But after you come out of that, then we have leveraging our space. So like what we've done is, it's traditionally hard to figure out how to get onto DoD facilities, so we've got folks that are being able to get out there. We turn on these demonstration events where the government comes out, they see all these things, they're buying these, like active contracts happen or at the point of the experimentation event. And so like for us, it's just been this opening the aperture, one, and creating the opportunity for the founders that are around us to get access into the space, which is traditionally like hard to get into. And then, you know, conversely, being a steward back to the ecosystem and making sure that we're providing programs and doing the things to help bring people along. And then I would say the indicator for us that something went really well is, you know, we had an event come up during Epic Fury. We had some operational needs that came up that were like, we need these in 72 hours. And so my organization is not dependent on pulling tech from Arizona. I pull stuff nationally and internationally. Like we tech scout everywhere. And what I was really impressed with is that our ecosystem was able to come up with probably about 75% of the solutions, and those things were put on a contract. And it's an indicator of the health of our ecosystem and how we're able to respond to mission critical needs and how we're able to respond to urgent requirements. And so like, that doesn't happen when you're sleepy, you know, kind of a backwoods town. That happens when you are creating that kinetic energy and bringing the people together that can produce outcomes and that can build and can figure out how to scale.
Sure. So maybe I'll try to answer the question from a different point of view. So Clate talked about software. Scarlett talked about kind of medical health sciences. Drew's talking about defense tech. Those are all great sectors. So I run the largest venture capital fund here in the state. I'm in the process of raising our second fund, so I'm talking literally 24/7, 365 to my prospective investors for the next fund. So I have real-time feedback for all of us in this room about what is perceived as going well and what's not perceived as going well. So I'm happy to share some of that. So one of the challenges that we have is that we need to have, you know, we were talking about benchmarks or milestones in the next 5 years. We need to have 5 more paradoxes. We need to have 5 more Aaron Matoses come out and plant the flag, and we need to do it in a big boy, big outcome type way. So when people take my money, I manage other people's money. I'm a fiduciary. And they give me money to make a certain type of return. And if I give you a check, my average check is $2.5 million. And if you're gonna go work blood, sweat, and tears and do the Baton Death March and return $25 million to me in 5 years or 10 years or $50 million or even $100 million, that's not good enough. It's a waste of my time. And it's a waste of my investors' time, it's a waste of their money because they put me in a certain box that aspires to have at least another 0 at the end of that number. And that's not judgmental. I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing, it's just how the business works. And because we're such a new ecosystem, oftentimes there's to put it politely, a lack of familiarity about how this works. So you can go get money from Wells Fargo. You can go get money from your mother-in-law. You can go max out your credit cards. It doesn't make any difference. Money is fungible, but what is not fungible are the expectations that come with different forms of money. So if we really want to move this ecosystem forward from a tech perspective and have other venture capitalists from the coast think that there's real stuff going on here, we have to raise the bar of what we're aspiring to do. And let me just disclaim, by the way, if you want to go max out your credit cards or get that loan from your mother-in-law and go build a company and sell it for 25 or 50 or $100 million, literally, truly, God bless you, that's awesome. Go knock yourself out. But that is not a tech VC type outcome. And so we just need to understand what we're trying to do, set our goals and our aspirations as high as possible, and if we can do that, and if we can have 5 more Aarons in the next 5 years, that is something in a very, very material way that our coastal friends will wake up and be like, oh my gosh, there's actually something real going on in the 5th largest city in the United States. So the onus is on us. We control the narrative. If we do that, we'll get there. But until we get there, we have nothing to complain about because we have to do it ourselves. No one's going to do it for us.
Oh, well said. Well said. Yeah, go ahead.
I love that, Jack. Thank you for saying that. When we say the top 5 tech hub, we're measuring it in terms of exits. We're measuring it in terms of spin-offs and in terms of colos and relos. We're not just aspirationally saying, hey, we want to be top 5 and then go throw a party and give ourselves pats on the back. We need big exits. That's it. That's the big thing. And we've been a little bashful about the fact that we've got to have that in order to do what we're saying is a big, massive win for Arizona. So yes, the capital, and by the way, one time just recently somebody said, why do you care so much about the capital? The capital raised is a leading indicator of future growth, and it's a lagging indicator of past growth. What we care about is that growth, and the capital both recognizes what's been happening and and makes possible what's going to happen. That's why we talk so much about the capital. But at the end, it is about big exits.
Exactly. And I think we've got a room full here of innovators, investors, entrepreneurs, and visionaries. And everyone is contributing to this ecosystem. So again, thank you for all the great work that you do. But I guess the last question I ask each of you is, what role does everyone in this room play to help us achieve that top 5 goal? Who wants to get started?
I'll go first and say this. Build a great company. That's the best thing you can do, is build a great company. Number one, if you're a builder and founder here, build a great company. That's the best way you lift this tech ecosystem.
And if you've had success, lean back in. Because to get the next one, your expertise, it's really needed.
Do you want to spectate or do you want to be in the arena? Like, it's really what it boils down to. And everyone on this panel is materially contributing to each other in some form or another. So it's the same with everybody else here. Thematic of everything that you've heard today from all of us up here, right, is like, how do we pull ourselves together? And it's a coalition of the willing trying to figure out how to materially move their ecosystem where it needs to go.
And I'll just pick up on something that Clate said. We have to do a better job of promoting ourselves. We're almost too bashful. And I just flew in from Miami, and there's nothing real going on in Miami from a tech perspective. What's going on here is far, 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 far more impressive. Honestly, it's a real topic, because if I asked you to name an organic unicorn that was born and bred and came out of Miami or South Florida, there would be a lot of crickets, because there's not one. There's no Paradox that's come out of South Florida. There's no ASU in South Florida. It's a real talk. But what has happened in South Florida, there's a certain mayor who was in power that used his mayoral run to basically parlay that into a run for president, albeit very shortly. He was awesome, and I know the guy. He's a nice guy. But he basically promoted Miami, South Florida so exceptionally well, it became self-fulfilling. And a bunch of rich VCs moved there, or they bought a 4th house there at least. And they spent 3 months out of the year. And then a bunch of entrepreneurs started going there more frequently. And it just kind of became this positive feedback loop. And it drives me crazy when I go there and all these people are running around, but they're not doing anything. It's completely empty. There's no real company formation. So coming back to your point, Sandra, I think if we just do a better job, and Sandra, by the way, you do an amazing job, so thank you, with the Commerce Authority. If we could just do a better job of letting the rest of the country, and frankly, the rest of the world know that there's real activity going on here, that in and of itself will be a major win because we can draw more people here because we're a very transient place. That's a feature, not a bug. But if more people come here, we'll just continue to accelerate that much more. So we have to promote ourselves more. Promotion is not a dirty word.
Yeah, that's excellent. So please join me in thanking our amazing panel here for the great work that they continue to do. Also, I want to say thank you to Kyle and John and the entire Silicon Oasis team. Thank you to all of you for attending, and we look forward to working together.
All right, thank you so much for coming to the Silicon Oasis Summit. 3 things before you go. Number 1, if you are in tech and you're building, become an ambassador. Let us know what you're building. We'd love to have you as part of the community. Number 2, if you're building a great company, continue building it. Reach out to us. We want to tell your story. And number 3, subscribe to our content. As Jack just mentioned, we cannot be bashful. We need to be telling the stories of each other, building in tech, and we need those exits. Thank you so much, everyone. We are so grateful you're here today. Thank you.